Okay, so in this next video, I want to talk to you about doing leak checks on your system. You want to make sure that before you get started and use it, you want to see if you have any kind of leak. And so what you do is you fill up your bellows, you kind of get everything ready, everything's all hooked up, and then you take your flow control and you set it down to 0. Now in this situation, I've actually purposely created a leak in the system so you can see what happens when there's a leak. And you can see the bellows, they're slowly dropping down here. And so it might be your first impression to say, oh, there must be a leak in the bellows then, but there's actually a good way to check and isolate the bellows from the rest of the system, and that is to take the hose off of the absorber elbow, and before it drops all the way down, put your hand over it. I'm going to take the hose off, and I'm going to immediately put my hand over here. So you can see the bellows is not dropping, but as soon as I take my hand off, it drops. Okay, so if there was a leak in the bellows canister area or in this hose, that bellows would continue to drop like that. But as you can see, whenever I put my hand over here, it stops dropping. So we know that there is no leak in the bellows area. So now we've isolated our leak to be, if there is a leak in the system, to be possibly in the absorber section. So that's what we'll have to check next. In this part of the leak testing process, we're going to check the absorber area. And a really helpful way to do this is when you got your machine, you'll have 2 of these corks. Hopefully you still have those. And one of them I put here in the end of the breathing circuit. And I'm actually going to take this off of here so that I don't have to hang on to it. I'm going to put it right there. Okay. And the other one, the other plug, you're going to want to take this hose off the elbow. We've already determined that there's no leak in the bellows area, so we're going to take that out of the circuit. And we're going to plug this elbow of the absorber. It requires a fair amount of force. You're going to have to push and twist at the same time. But what you want to do is make sure there's no leak whatsoever. So now we've basically isolated the breathing circuit and the absorber from everything else. We got to make sure everything's closed and tight. Okay, and so now we're going to turn up the flow control. You got to do it very slowly, and you got to watch the needle at the same time because you don't want to peg the needle. But we're going to take and turn on the flow control. We want this needle to go all the way up to 60 on the gauge, and then we're going to turn it right back down to 0, and we want the gauge to go from 60 down to 50 within 10 seconds or longer. So if it drops right away like this and it's only like 5 seconds, that's too quickly. So that means there's a little bit of a leak in the system. The faster it drops, the bigger the leak. But if it goes from 60 down to 50 and it takes 10 seconds or 20 seconds or 30 seconds, that's good. That means there's no leak. So I'm just going to turn the flow control up real quick and let the needle rise up. And as you can see, the needle's going up. I have it at 60 now, and I'm going to turn this all the way down, the flow control. And now I want this to last from 60 down to 50 for at least 10 seconds. And looking at it right now, it's going pretty slowly, so it looks like we don't have a leak in the system. So what would happen is if there was a leak in the system, you would see the needle drop quickly like that. And I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to bring it up. In fact, if you have a big leak in the system and you try and turn this flow control up, you'll find that this needle just doesn't want to go up, or it goes up very slowly. I'm going to create a little bit of a leak. Okay, I have it at 60. I'm going to turn it down to 0 right away. And in this case, the needle's going down quicker, and it was about 5 seconds to go from 60 to 50. So there's a leak in there that needs to be fixed. I'm going to correct that leak by closing this up. I'm going to go back up to 60. It's very important when you're turning up the flow control on the cart that you're watching the gauge at all times, because you don't want to stress the gauge. And as you can see, it's pretty steady. It means we don't have a leak in this absorber area. And if I open up and create a leak, it goes down right away. And so that's what you're going to look for, is when it drops down too quickly, you know you have a leak that you got to address. And it could be something here, it could be the lid, you know, it could be some other area. But we have, in this test, isolated it down to the breathing circuit in this. Now, if by chance it was in the breathing circuit, we could take that out of the system and plug the two pipes in the front here, and then hold our hand on the other one and check the same way. And that would help isolate this on there. But at least we've isolated down to this section. So that's how you check for leaks in the system, and how you isolate it down to a specific area.